Michael from CTW here, and right now we're going to talk about one of the most critical things that I can name about testing, getting good, reliable, repeatable data, and that is the warm-up phase. And I can't stress enough, warm your damper up. And if we're not warming it up, do a timed warm-up. Because some dampers have such soft valving, so much bleed, they're not going to get warm. But you need to move the damper before you go ahead and collect data and say, oh, that's the data. Why doesn't it look right? Maybe because you just didn't warm it up first. Classic story, I tell this story all the time when we do in-person trainings, and I posted about it on yesterday on our Facebook page, and I had another customer call and go through the same thing. So it's happened for the last 30 years, and I understand it. Warm up your shock. So what does that mean? Well, if you have a gas chambered shock, an emulsion shock, something that's closed, a monotube, you want to warm it up to a temperature or for 10 seconds. You want to move it, right? So, and people say, okay, it doesn't get hot, so I use a temperature timed warm up, and we have that in our probe software. So you would click on timed warm up, right? And you click on there. So you're going to run a timed warm up. You're going to run for X number of seconds at a speed. That's fine. You know, maybe it's on a sprint car. It's on one of the corners. It's just not going to get very hot. It's obviously in the air, so you don't have to worry about temperature. So you run it for 10 seconds just so it moves. Now, the classic is a twin tube damper, right? So this happened again, like I said, just yesterday. A customer, it always starts this way, sends me an email that says, hey, the dyno doesn't work, it's not repeating, I'm getting all kind of inconsistent results, help me. It's like, okay, always again, send me the data files. I need to look at the data files. People will send me a picture, and all I can agree with you is, yeah, the picture looks weird. Send me the data files. So I get the data files. I'm looking at it. True, it looks weird. So I do a diagnostic. And the diagnostic allows me to look at force signal over time. So he runs this really long test. He's got like 20 speeds in it. And I can see he doesn't do a warm-up. He has never run the damper before he starts to try to collect data. The force is very small and erratic for the first 5 speeds. And then for the next 5 speeds, 10 speeds, it starts to build. And it starts to actually look like a damper. So the first ones just don't look like anything. And then it looks right. So I go back to the customer. I think I was talking on the phone while I'm looking at the data. And I said, is this a twin tube shock? And he says, well, yes, it is. I said, probably laying flat on the bench before you run it. He says, well, yeah. I said, okay. The problem is a twin tube shock needs to be primed. It needs to be run, mounted properly and run so that it can get to a steady state inside. I said, I bet if you ran that shock one more time, the data would look perfect. Sure enough, guess what happens? He runs it one more time, the data looks good. The shock needed to be primed. People don't think about that. I don't know why. I guess it's experience. I guess they just, you know, they're throwing shocks together. Some of these just, they're still learning. So warm up your damper one way or another because it's important. The next thing is you know, maybe the damper sat for 6 months. So is the data you want after 6 months, you throw it on the dyno, you don't do a warm up, and immediately, why does my 10 inch per second test look wrong? I don't know. Have the seals all gotten stiff and they need the lubrication by just moving the shock up and down? What's the gas pressure? Is it low because your shop is you know, not heated, or the shocks were out in a truck? God, it happens all the time. So run it to something consistent so that when you go to collect the data, you know that it was done the same way 6 months ago, it's at the same temperature, or it has cycled and you know it is at a steady state and ready to get data. So that's the time warm-up. And conversely, we have the temperature warm-up. If we click on that, you come over here. So when your shock actually has some valving and running it at say 10 inches per second or 250 millimeters per second, it's going to build temperature. So you want to set your target temperature to a number, run it at a particular speed to get there. And again, you can run 10 inches per second. You can run a lot faster to try to generate some heat. And everybody says, okay, what temperature should I use? Well, use a temperature that the damper is going to come up to. So maybe in the winter, all your dampers are 60 degrees because it's cold out. If you set your temperature warm up to 65 degrees, well, that's not going to work in the summer, is it? Because in the summer, maybe they're 80 degrees, 90 degrees just sitting, so they miss the temperature warm up altogether. So that's why we have used for a very long time 90 degrees or maybe 100 degrees. So they warm up to the temperature, and you always are warming them up, whether they're sitting in the winter in the cold or in the summer where they're already warm. So warm it up to a temperature that you get to, not that you may actually already go by. So that gives you, again, those very consistent results. And 6 months from now, you can say, well, I did everything the same. What is my difference? And very important to know. There you go. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, contact us using the information in the video description.